Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our Lively Arts Evening Conversation, hosted by Rodney Whittenburg. And welcome, Black Violin.
Thank you, everybody. And keep going with the applause for our guests, Kevin Marcus and Wil B. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
So, let's get into it. So, tell me what was like the early days growing up in Florida, and how did music come into both of your lives?
Growing up in Florida, early days, hip hop, reggae, and it's being from Caribbean background, that's just what it was, and very heavy influenced by reggae and calypso and that sort of. Hold on, let me turn this down. I'm hearing. So that was pretty much my influence in his as well, and classical kind of just barged in into the mix, in middle school, and I started playing when I was in 8th grade, and I didn't care for classical music at first. I'd never really seen a violin up close, And I actually wanted to play the saxophone. They put me in the wrong class, but so I mean that was my early years of just music, just very, very hip hop. I was like any typical kid, just listening to anything that was popular at the time, Things I probably shouldn't have been listening to, but nowadays it's difficult. It's even difficult now to shelter kids. But I was any other typical kid, just very reggae influenced, hip hop, calypso, anything popular.
All the stuff that's happening in Miami.
Yeah, and
club music, whatever.
Exactly. We're from Miami, so.
Yeah.
And I would say though that classical music definitely opened up my mind to just the possibilities of music, because before then I never played a Bach piece or a Beethoven piece. Never cared to,
Yeah.
And it definitely opened up my mind and my ears to music. And I started listening to a lot of old school music after that, because if you listen to a lot of Motown stuff, it's heavy string arrangements in there, and I started getting a lot of appreciation for that music as well. So,
Did anyone in your family play music, or?
No. My sister played the clarinet in church, but that was it. She played for like 2-3 years, but no one else plays anything. My dad loves the guitar though. He has a guitar in his room. It has like one missing string. He doesn't really play it, but I really want to get him a guitar, but no one else plays anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about you?
Same. I'm the only musician. I play at every wedding and every funeral in my family. So I'm the only one that has done it so far.
Mm-hmm.
And influence-wise, it's very similar. We grew up the same. My family's from Dominica, from a small island called Dominica. So we grew up listening to calypso, soca, zouk, reggae. So Bob Marley every morning. I found hip-hop somewhere along the way, and then I had classical music every day, second period. So it's kind of how it worked.
So you talked a little bit about how you came to the violin. How did you come to the viola?
Well, my mom made me do it, like most kids. And I was in the 5th grade, and I was just kind of messing with the wrong crowd. And she honestly wanted me to go to a school that wasn't in my neighborhood. So in order to do that, I had to find some skill that I would get accepted to a school outside of my neighborhood. So the violin was the skill, and then the teacher that taught me at the beginning was the teacher at another school. So I ended up going to a performing arts magnet middle school, but all public school. I didn't have any lessons. My mama was broke, so we had no lessons. But we had violin program in the school, and we took advantage of it, and it worked. It got us here.
Wow, the really importance of music in schools.
Yeah,
really
public
powerful.
school, free music. I took a violin home every day for 7 years.
Wow. Did you guys grow up in middle class or tough neighborhood? What was it like carrying a violin case home every day?
Definitely not middle class.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, for me, we went to a magnet program, performing arts. So I mean, you either played the violin or the trumpet, or you danced, you did drama. So there wasn't a lot of teasing. Plus, we're kind of big for, for being in high school. I mean, he was a big guy.
Oh yeah, for sure.
He was, he could have been a linebacker or something in high school.
Well, nobody was messing with us about playing violin.
Exactly. But yeah, I mean, it just, it wasn't really, for me, I moved around quite a bit in high school. I remember I lived really close to high school. Then we moved to another bad neighborhood. Then I moved to another bad neighborhood. So that's pretty much was my my upbringing since middle school and high school. And I was born in Bahamas actually, so I came here when I was 10 years old. So that was another level of, you know. So.
So, did you, when did the switch happen for you guys? When it went from, all right, this is what I'm being made to do, to I'm passionate about playing this instrument?
Well, I mean, for the first few years, I mean, violin is an instrument that takes a long time to make it sound like anything, you know? So the first 4 or 5 years, it's literally I'm just going to class, and there's this girl in middle school that I liked, so I was in the class, and then in high school, the teacher our teacher, his name is James Miles, and he just, I remember in 8th grade I went and I auditioned for the high school, and then he said, yeah, first of all, I'm going to switch you from violin to viola, and then secondly, if you take me seriously, you can get a full scholarship to college, I promise, right? And I was like, okay, because I remember my mom always say, if I got a full scholarship to college, she'll use that money she was saving, and she'll buy me a car. So to me, I was like, all right, let me see what's up. So then I started taking it serious in high school. Our teacher really, really cared. And at that point, we were able to start making it sound like something, Then, we were able to actually be nice on the instrument. So, and then we're competing in the state, and we're doing all states. And then, both of us went to all state all 4 years, and kept getting better and better and better. So for me, though, the switch as far as like not being made to do it, I'm not gonna say being made to do it, but like where it became extremely like passionate for me, and I was like, oh man, I'm gonna change the world with this thing, was really, and it's something I spoke about to some of the kids and people I see here today, like about making it yours. Like it got to a point where, in college, it probably happened sometime in college where I was, making beats. And I make beats, and then I make beats, or somebody would beat on the table, and then somebody else would be rapping, and I'd just be playing violin, and that's when it became like cool and fun, and like I felt it was mine, And we talk about it a lot. It's just about making the instrument yours. And like before that, it was my teachers, or it was it was my mom's. But then at that moment where I was creating my own thing, it became mine, and then. Will and I really, really worked hard to try to keep doing that as much as possible to make it ours. And now, when you see the show, we smile the whole time because it's, we're doing us, We're not doing anyone else. We're doing us completely, 100%. And if you like it, that's great. If you don't, that's great too, But we're being true to ourselves. And that's when I think the switch happened, when we learned how to do that.
And for you?
Yeah, very, very similar. I mean, I remember being in high school or even in college, and I would go into it sounds weird, but I would go literally to a dark room that had a lot of just reverb and just play whatever, and I would just close my eyes, just think about stuff, and it was very, very therapeutic for me just to be able to be in a room and just play anything. I'm not playing any type of pieces or anything, so I think at that moment, whenever that moment happened, I did it a few times in high school. There's this hallway right before you get into the orchestra room, this little gap. I used to go in there after school, because sometimes our teacher would take me home. So before that, he's doing whatever he's doing, and I'll go in that little pocket and just play, and turn the lights off, and just play. It sounded good in there, the echoes and the reverb. So I would do that. I think at that moment, I felt completely free. I felt completely, it was different. It was different than just sitting down and playing a particular piece. So I did that a lot, particularly in college. And I think that's the moment I realized, okay. And also another thing, I used to just play around with the piano a lot in school. And my teacher used to get upset, why don't you practice more or whatever. And I am practicing. I just like to mess around with the piano, And he told me this one thing. He was like, listen, why don't you do that doodling stuff with the viola? And I'm like, okay, I'll try that. But I will still play the piano anyway. But it's something that he told me I never forgot, so, yeah.
So just for people out there who don't know, could you just briefly explain the difference between the violin and the viola?
The difference is basically, if you guys are familiar with the choir, it's soprano, alto. The violin is the soprano, the viola is the alto, The viola is the fifth lower, and the violin is a fifth higher. And the size difference too. The viola can go up to 17 17 inches. So, viola can be pretty big, just, massive, like a cello on your shoulders.
Yeah.
So, it's fun. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a 17. I'm looking for a big woman on my. I'm sorry. I shouldn't. Terrible. That's terrible. Well, that's terrible. But I'm looking for a big viola.
So, when did your friendship develop? Were you guys friends? I read that you guys knew each other in high school, but even though you went to different schools, but when did the friendship really come together?
We met first day of my 10th grade year, his 9th grade year, and we were stand partners in orchestra class. That's how we met.
Wow.
And we went to like Fame, like the school we went to is like a Fame, like there's all kind of, like Jason Derulo went to my school, like all kind of people, like, so it's a really talented school. So and mostly, I'll say maybe 80% black, maybe 10% Latino, like not a lot of white kids come to the school. So like for us, it was like this orchestra, like, and it was a really good orchestra of really skilled musicians, and they all looked like us and felt like us. So like, it's like a big group of us that were just, doing different things, and a lot of us have moved on and done some great stuff musically and otherwise. And so we were always cool and, everything in high school, but then I think it was in college when we got together, and there was like a clique of us from high school. It was the two of us, and then a good friend of ours named Fred, who's a violist and a dope producer, and then a good friend of ours named Leo, who's a guitarist. And then we formed a production company during college, and then that's when it started kind of, that's when we like fused it, and then he moved in, and then we're like, and that's how everything worked out and how we became really close.
And you both went to different colleges. What were your majors in college? Were you music majors in college?
Yeah, performance majors.
They gave us scholarships, so we had to be music majors.
So what was that like going to college for music? Was it
different? It was very different. I mean, first of all, I mean, it was, just the way everybody looked. It was just very different, and it wasn't necessarily a lot of pressure. I think our teacher really prepared us. I know for me, I would literally go to rehearsal and I would go to viola technique class, and my teacher would say, okay, just find a piece, find an etude and play. And I'm like, really? I just pulled out my old etudes and started playing those. And I would play them. She's like, great. And I go to lessons. She's like, okay, I really have nothing to say. And I'm like, what? For me, college was really easy. I mean, for me it was. I mean, playing. But it was very different. It was very, structured. It was not a lot of room for just goofing around. Which in high school you did a lot of that. So, so it was very different. I think for us, even though we were performance majors and that's where we went, but I don't think we ever saw ourselves. Not for me. I never saw myself wearing a tuxedo in an orchestra. That's kind of where I went. And for a long time when I was in high school, I wanted to be a soloist. I remember seeing. I saw, what's his name? Famous cello player.
Oh, Yo-Yo Ma?
Yo-Yo Ma. I'm blank. My mind went blank. And I saw him at concert, and it's crazy. And I actually got to meet him, I don't know who pulled that off. Anyway, I got to meet him. And I was young, too. The first question I asked him was like, yo, how much you get paid?
Oh, my God.
And it's funny, like I hear kids ask me this question all the time. I was just like them. I was just like, yo, how much you get paid, dog?
So funny.
And because it was just like, it was him and it was a whole lot of people and it was a huge crowd. I'm like, that's what I want to do, And I remember telling my teacher, and he was like, it's a lot of work. I'm like, yeah, but that's what I want to do. It's paid. But, naive little kids, so,
So what was in college for you?
College was real weird. I mean, high school, it was fun. Orchestra was like all the homies, and then when I got it was very similar. I studied at Florida International University. I studied with the coolest dude ever, though. His name is Chauncey Patterson. He still to this day calls me Soul Brother #1, like a James Brown reference. So, like, coolest dude, black guy, viola player, just a monster violist, and so we understood each other on really a lot of different levels. He's a real famous touring violist and everything, but But so that was cool. My teacher was great, but I was the orchestra, and I felt the same. I wasn't challenged. I looked around. I'm just like the only brown face now. It's just it didn't have the same vibe. So high school was everything for me. College, I just kind of did it, and I just went through it.
Yeah.
But the great thing for me for college is that's where I learned how to like produce music. That's where I learned and I understood what my chords are, and having to go through music theory and having to study 20th century history and all of the counterpoint and conducting and piano. And so to me, it was all the other stuff besides violin that really I took from college, I mean, and now we're doing composing. We're composing a TV show for a show on Fox, and I feel all of those things kind of coming back, and we're using like form and analysis and counterpoint and all these things, and so it's really the other stuff, not so much the viola, but I'm grateful for the experience, but I haven't gone back and worked on anything else as far as masters or anything. So I was ready to move on and do this. So.
Interesting. Do you think there's a new wave of serious musicians who are open to everything? When I was in college for music, if I mentioned anything pop, the teachers just freaked out on me, and so did my fellow students. They just looked down on anything that was. That's a long time ago. I'm pretty old, but but I see when I talk to young people who are serious musicians, they're open to everything, and it seems to be this new crop of
Definitely.
serious players who aren't limited by the label classical or jazz or whatever. What do you guys think about that?
I think there is a new age of musicians, particularly classical musicians, and I think it's a great thing, classical music is one of those genres that has always had this prestige, we don't need you, we're good, we got our fans, and honestly, it's fading away. I know in South Florida, Miami, it's been fading away for a long time now. I mean, they took away the classical station, and it's just different now. So I think what artists like us and others do is kind of bring notoriety to just classical music, and we try to, particularly on stage, we try to give you the raw classical. Like for me, I play my acoustic, and he tries to really, emulate the way I play, just so you hear the classical in the hip hop. You know what I mean? Because that's important as well. So, and I think what it does is it just bridges this gap. There's a huge gap, with classical music, and it's funny, we have this conversation all the time, like, how do we get younger kids and younger generation to appreciate classical music? And the answer is, let them in. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Stop acting like you guys are, so above everybody else.
Right.
And to me, that's what classical music has always been. And I think what we do and what others do, it kind of opens up. I feel like after a Black Violin concert, you're either more open to hip hop or more open to classical music. You know what I'm saying? And I think it's a great thing, and classical needs it. You know? In a lot of areas, and particularly, they're taking away all of the string programs in the schools, and I think that's one of the main reasons too, because it's like there's no interest, and
they're not building future audiences.
They're not, and they need to. They need to, and they need to educate future audience, and the way that you do that is you be more open. Like we've done a few concerts. Actually, we were in Tallahassee. We did a concert with the youth orchestra in Tallahassee, which is great. They're really, really great players, and our fans came to support, and also, just you see just an array of just different type of people here to see our concert, and it was great. And what that does is it just creates a whole new world, and kids are more interested in listening to a Bach now. If they're in the elevator, they're probably going to tune in a little harder. Like, what's that music? Because that's what kids think. It's just elevator music. You know what I'm saying? They don't have any appreciation for it because, and the genre needs to do a better job. And I think it's a great thing that what we're doing and what others are doing, and they're just they're bridging the gap. Totally. They're making the gap shorter.
Yeah, my kids call it ballerina music. And I'm a violinist, and my kids call classical music ballerina music. Funny. But I think that you had it right where you say like building future audiences, like definitely compared to when I was in school in the early 2000s. There's so much more curriculum for students to do different things. I was meeting with the dean of music at University of Miami, and like some of the classes that they have, I was so shocked at what they have now compared to, you know,
Right.
12, 13 years ago. They have a stage presence class.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
know,
wow.
like, and I'm like,
That's
now
awesome.
you're thinking,
Yeah.
like, now you're, you know,
Yeah.
and then also it's like, you know, when we went to college, I have so many friends and we, you know, studied and has a classical degree in violin or viola or cello and now they're, you know, playing in bluegrass bands or, you know, because you have to be alternative. You have to be able to do a lot of things to pay your bills as a musician. You know, so I think that I hope more music programs are being more open and students are understanding that you have to spread your wings because you can't just play classical, you can't just play hip hop, can't just play jazz. You got to play all of it. You have to play all of it and be able to be proficient at all of it to secure that you'll be able to take care of yourself later and not be like a musician who you know, who has to keep a day job and do music at night because you love it. It's just like the more versatile you are, the better chance of you being able to take care of yourself as a musician.
So I had a question for you, and I don't know if you guys can answer it without your instruments, but I've heard you play classical, heard you play hip hop, and one of the things I always find challenging when I'm working with string players is trying to get them to groove. So could you maybe talk a little bit about and set up the difference between a romantic era or classical era or Baroque groove versus what you guys may do if you're swinging it or grooving or
You can't teach groove. I guess you can teach it.
because
It's either you got it or you don't.
Yeah, I mean, you got that soul, you know.
I mean, it's the scariest thing. I've brought in string players. I'm like, no, swing that or just groove. They're like playing it so straight.
Or even with us, like, you know, we'll have a song and we'll have string players come in to play the parts for the song, and then after we're done with them in the studio, I don't know if you guys are familiar with like Pro Tools or anything or any recording software, but basically like they're playing so straight that we pull it back so it lay on the beat, so it lay, you know, because they're playing you know, like you need it you know, you need it to like lay, so you ended up like literally just take the wave and pull it back to make the groove, you know. So it's like,
but it's not them. It's just the way it is. That's how. If you're a classical musician, that's the way. That's how you were taught to play.
Exactly.
That's just what it is. And I think the difference between us and a lot of classical musicians is we are a product of our environment. You know what I'm saying? Like after rehearsal, I'm listening to Tupac, Biggie. I'm listening to whatever's hot. You know what I'm saying? So, and the essence of hip hop is expression and expressing yourself, right? So it was natural for us to put the two together. So, you know, if I'm not playing classical music and I'm playing something else, you best believe I'm grooving. I'm swinging, you know, I'm laying back on the beat and I'm in it because it's a different feel. It's a different thing, you know, and it's very, very difficult for classical musicians to do that because you're not taught to do that. You're not taught to just, you know, it's scary for classical musicians because you know, being exposed is something that we don't like. We don't like to, you know what I'm saying? We want to be able to just play in a comfortable setting. There's other violin players, viola players. If he messes up, if I mess up, no one really gonna hear me because there's a whole bunch of viola players. You know what I mean? Like to be standing out like that, you know, we don't like that. We like to just that's just how classical music is, you know. So, you know, so it's different what we do, and that's kind of why we're able to, you know, like for us, we'll go in the studio with an artist. You know, we'll go in the studio with a major artist, and the reason why they love us is like you put the beat on and we go to work. We don't need any sheet music. We just go and just do what we do, you know, and we groove.
Awesome. And what happens when you're playing something more traditional and classical? I know,
I mean, it's a switch. I mean, like, you know.
I can't even remember when the last time I played a
I
classical.
know, we play so much alternative. I mean, like, it's a switch. I mean, and even when we play classical, I mean, it's still a little bit of a groove in there for us because that's how we interpret it. You
That's
know?
awesome.
I mean, like, and even with that, to even take it further, like with classical, you know, I think it's also about your influence. Like, groove is all about influence. Like, you know, when we're finished this discussion here, we're gonna go backstage and we'll probably put on, you know, Kendrick Lamar's latest album in the green room, and that's what we vibe to.
Yeah.
You know, I love, you know, Beethoven quartets. I love all kind of classical music, but 100%, like I'm all about like, you know, hip hop or pop or you know, or some jazz or grooving things. So it's all about you being a product of your influences.
Cool. So, So you guys are in college, you start this production company, and your vision is you're going to start producing artists, and next thing you know, people are paying more attention to you guys than the artists you're working with. So how do you go from that to the Apollo to Alicia Keys' manager?
Well, it started off just really sending a tape out to Apollo and didn't know what to expect. I mean, at that time, we were still kind of performing in the clubs. Because honestly, the reason why we started doing just us is, you know, we did the whole label thing. We had a singer and a rapper, you know what I'm saying? We're going to sign them to our label. You know?
Okay.
And they refused to sign the deal. And we're like, we did all this legwork, you know, we printed your demos and, you know, we get you shows and stuff, and you saying no? And honestly, the deal was just so bad for us because, you know, we're homies, we're friends, you know what I'm saying? But to us, thinking about it now, it's like, we were crazy for giving them that deal.
Yeah.
And they had the nerve to not sign it. You know, so for us, you know, and we didn't get mad. It just really clicked in our minds. Like, you know what? When we perform with our artists, we see the crowd. They're looking at us, and we're in the back. You know what I'm saying? So we're just like, yeah, let's just do this thing. Let's just, you know, go in the forefront. You know. So what are we gonna call ourselves? I mean, everybody's always calling us the Black something. So, oh, Stuff Smith, Black Violin. We're Black Violin. That's literally how it happened. And from there, we started just performing at all the clubs. You know, every time, because you know it's South Beach, so every time a major artist would have a show, a birthday party, we would try to perform at the club, and we would go to promote and listen. We got these two black guys that want to perform at your club, and they'll just be like, "What? You know,
Get out.
go somewhere."
And they play violin.
Exactly, right? And but what we would do is we would pop the trunk. My manager at the time would pop his Expedition and play some music, and we'd pull out the violins and viola and start playing. And then we draw a little crowd, and the promoter's like, "That's kind of cool. I'll see you guys at 9:30." You know, so that's kind of how we started building this you know rapport in South Florida, and send a tape out to Apollo. They called us back, and we prepared ourselves. Went there and didn't know what to expect. I remember being in the green room. And everyone's getting booed off stage, right?
Yeah.
Everybody knows Apollo. Everybody heard of Apollo? You know what it is. They boo you, man. It's brutal.
They love it.
You know, so you know we did that, and we downstage and listening to everybody get booed, and went off stage, and you know we were kind of nervous. The only reason why we were kind of like relaxed is because every producer in there was just like, "You guys are good. Trust me, you got nothing to worry about." So we're like, "Okay, cool." But it was still nerve-wracking, so we went up and rubbed the log and performed and played and standing ovation. Like literally, this is when Monique was hosting the show, and the crowd would not stop screaming, you know. And we're just like, and then we won the whole thing, 2005 Legends, and that's when we realized this is something special, I guess, because for us, we've always done it. So that's kind of where we were in New York for a whole week, and we taped the whole show in one day. And we went to Alicia Keys' office, her manager's office, and we played for him. We didn't know because he didn't really seem like he was really into it. So we went back home and got a call 2 weeks later to perform with Alicia Keys at Billboard Awards and tour with her. And that's kind of how it just snowballed. And her music director started just handing us over to different artists. We toured with Linkin Park, Fort Minor for like a few years, and just started doing a lot of that stuff. And for us, we got tired of doing that, so we're like, listen, we want to be our own thing, and we started putting our show and tours together. We linked up with an individual that was working at Violet, a management booking agent at the time, so he started booking us shows, and you know, it's 12 years later, we're,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying, thousands of shows later, so, you know.
That's great.
Yeah.
I could ask you questions all day. It's love talking to you guys, but I want to open up to the floor. Before I do that, one more question I do want to get in. How do you decide what you're going to play? How do you decide what tunes you're going to do, and how does that come about, and how do you prep that?
You know, tonight is our 44th show of the year. So we have basically a set list that we've been using, and we'll have like a winter tour and a spring tour and then a summer set list. So, we normally stick to what we do, I mean, right now we're touring Stereotypes, so most of the stuff you'll hear tonight will be from that album. But we have moments in there where we just literally play whatever we want. You'll see when you see the concert. But yeah, we play a lot of what we love. A lot of what we love right now is our new album. So
Yeah.
Go get it. iTunes.
How did the tunes come about on the new album? I know you worked with a producer. Did you improvise stuff first, or did you compose it, or was it a combination? Did you come up with tracks first? How did you come up with the?
That's a tough one. It's like the chicken before the egg kind of thing. Whatever. I mean, all of the records have their own story and their own vibe. Some of them we did. I remember like Stereotypes, for instance. We recorded that song in maybe 2 hours.
Okay.
But then you'll look at another song like on there, like the song with Melanie Fiona on it, and that song took like 3 months. Just because you piece it together over a longer period of time. So they all have their own stories. I mean, sometimes the beat comes first. Sometimes, with Shaker, for instance, it's like, oh, we want to redo this song, so we have a melody, and then we build around the melody.
Yeah.
Sometimes with Day 2, we just had a beat. And there's just a beat that's going, and we're like, how can we make this beat epic? So it's different. It varies.
Yeah.
It's part of the journey of music.
Wow, that's great. So let's open it up to some questions from the floor. We have a couple minutes. Does anyone have any questions out there? Oh, don't tell me no questions.
Not all at once.
There's one. Yes, what is your question?
Not a question. I'm classically trained. Very regimented. You get taught. You play a certain way, and that's it. Tried going into jazz. Doesn't work because unfortunately I'm also a scientist. So you brought the joy back into my life in terms of listening to the music. Because I would play like a minute waltz in half a minute, like easy. Like I just tore through classical. I love the complexities, but you literally brought, like I say, you funkify classical.
That's awesome.
Love it.
I love the integration, so thank you so much, because I definitely think you added a new dimension that so many other people can enjoy, and I play it all the time at work. I'm talking about you guys all the time at work. I'm trying to get the word out there so everybody knows how great you are.
Thank you very much for that. That's a great comment to start.
Another question?
We had one back there. You see?
Yeah. Oh, back there and then over to you. Yeah, back there.
My daughter is 8 and she's starting to play the viola. What kind of advice can you give her as she grows in playing and rehearsing, and what it is that she would need to do to be successful?
One thing I would say is just try to have fun, because you're young, you're 8, and sometimes it could be like, good, I got to practice, I got to play another scale. Really try to find a way you can have fun, right? Because if it's fun, then it's like, it's not work. Just like for us, we're not working on stage. It's the greatest job ever, right? So it's not too young to try to find something in there, because obviously you got to practice, you got to play your skills, all the things that your teacher's telling you to do, and those things are crucial, they're important. But I would say try to find something, you know what I'm saying, whether it's listening to, I don't know what 8-year-olds are listening to nowadays, but you know, right? But if she likes to listen to music, just play it and try to play something, Even though it's funny because a lot of teachers probably wouldn't recommend that, but I think it's important for kids to when you have a child that's passionate about anything, it's great, right? You know what I mean? And if they can find something that makes them want to play that, whether it's like, I don't know, a radio tune that they're just like, they constantly want to just play it, they're practicing. You know what I'm saying? Just like, reading a book. I mean, if they want to read comic books, at least they're reading, So, I mean, it's the same thing. But I think try to find joy, man. Try to find joy in playing. And that will, make you want to practice more, play more.
You had mentioned Yo-Yo Ma earlier, and I had taken a student of mine to meet him, and he said, don't practice, play. Play great music, play music you love. Don't practice, just play.
Yes,
that's exactly what it is. And that's what we did. I remember that's what I used to do. Obviously, I used to practice skills and everything, but I remember just going to the bathroom and practice.
Yeah.
It just sounded good, Don't do that, by the way. It's a terrible way to practice, but
it sounds so good. Everything sounds good in the bathroom.
You had a question over there.
Mine is more of a technical question. and it has to do with Pro Tools.
Mhm.
So do you see at any point in time you're doing a string package for instrumentals for Pro Tools?
Yes, yes, we do. We see us doing that in the near future, especially now because we're scoring, and now we're doing a lot of recording on strings, and so yes, we do see us doing a pack like that.
That's happening.
Yep.
And will we be able to get it through your website, or do we have to go through Pro Tools?
Somebody will sell it to you. I'm not
Yeah.
sure how it will happen, but you'll know about it if you need to know.
East, West,
It's
or
probably
one of
not.
those?
One of them.
It's probably not going to be through Pro Tools. It might be through like a software based,
Like East West.
Yeah, East West maybe. But
Something
follow,
like
follow
that,
Black
exactly.
Violin. You'll know
Yeah.
when it's time.
Okay, yes.
I'm sorry, but my son was too nervous to ask. He plays violin. He plays clarinet, bass clarinet, and guitar. So he really plays by ear. He reads music just because they're teaching him, but then as soon as he walks away and they'll say, "Oh, pick up from here," he'll wait for you to play it and then jump on. So we just try to, and maybe I'm wrong, I'm not a musician, but maybe if you tell them, how important is it to you to really know how to read the music? I mean, I think playing by ear is a great thing, it's a gift, but how important is it to know the music as well?
I think it's important, and as a musician, you want to be well-rounded, and at the same time, you're young. I don't know if you're probably gonna take our jobs in
Yeah, for
10
sure.
years, but at the same time, I think all of those things, what it does is it builds character. I mean, you're gonna be you're gonna be better at math and better at all these different subjects just because you're putting a little bit more attention to reading music, And for me, that's what it did. I'm terrible at math, but but music helped. You know what I mean? So I think it's important. It's not a waste of time, and playing by ear is incredible too. That's great. Not a lot of musicians can do it. Not a lot of musicians has, you know what I mean? Like they can only read music, but the fact that you can actually stray away from that's great. But I do think reading music and that whole process is important because it's growth. You're growing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're too young. Just do the music, read the music, and when you become rich and famous, and I can go and hopefully I can open up for you, and then you can do whatever you want to do.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, please give a big, warm round of applause for Kevin Marcus and Wil B. Black Violin. Thank you, guys.
Thank you guys.
Thank you very much.
Enjoy the show.